And today, Tunisia is showing the way forward on how to build democratic institutions, democratic traditions, a democratic constitution that I call it, I really believe that it is a miracle. The constitution itself in Tunisia is a miracle because it has the consensus. And we worked very hard for over 2 years to build that consensus. It was not easy to have a constitution that 22 political parties, the main 22 political parties, all voted in favor of this constitution. And 200 out of the 216 members of the assembly, of the constituent assembly, who were elected by the people to write the constitution, 200 out of 216 voted for the constitution. I think this is a miracle. I would like to invite you to watch the video of this moment, this historic moment when the vote occurred in the assembly. I was there. We also have, by the way, 3 or 4 members of the assembly here tonight joining us at this dinner. It was really a historic moment, and we all, I don't think the president of the American Tunisian Association.
I also helped make the guest list, so it's great to see so many of my close personal friends here tonight. I'm a long-time Tunisia-phile. First trip was in 1989, and so much was going on in Tunisia. I went as a post-Peace Corps volunteer with the border had opened with Algeria, so I was able to cross all of North Africa with ease, and it was quite a time. Then later an Arabic student at Bordeaux School. I was a Fulbright scholar for a year. I was Tunisia desk officer at state under others here. Diplomat on a number of cooperative missions, and then now I'm president of the American Tunisia Association. And it's a wonderful country. If you haven't been, I can't recommend it more. Rached Ghannouchi. Well, first of all, I'm not going to talk about the Constitution, but POMET heads here tonight, and MEI. Very interesting aspects of what went on into the creation of this Constitution. We're covered in that. I'm going to talk about Rached Ghannouchi. If you're here tonight, you know how important his career has been and how important his life has been to the development of Tunisian politics and Islamic thought beyond Tunisia, across the Muslim world, and beyond in the 20th and 21st century. A lot of accolades have been showered on him. He's one of the world's leading Islamic thinkers, writing on Islam and modernity, democracy and secularism, relations between East and West, human rights and civil society. He was named one of Time's 100 most influential people in the world in 2012. And Foreign Policy's top 100 global thinkers in 2012, and he won the Chatham House Prize from the UK in 2012. All of these events that we're talking about. One person called him the Nelson Mandela of the Arab world. Although I'm not sure he would like that description, because none of what I just said is what Mr. Ghannouchi is about. I emailed several friends of mine and said I was speaking tonight, and I said, what stands out for you? And all the responses I got back from Tunis, from Germany, from elsewhere, talked about his humility. It's the first thing that stands out, and it's been very visible this week, yesterday and today at the events, that he, as everyone thanks him for his role, he's the first to point out the important role that all the others played in Tunisian civil society across the Tunisian political spectrum. A lot also of analysts have pointed out the tension between the movement he started and the party he started, or the tension between his role as a political leader and his role as a thinker and a social movement person. But I don't think that's really the tension. I think that shows the multifaceted nature of what he's contributed to Tunisia. It's also very interesting that as everyone grabbed a position in various transitional governments in Tunisia, the person probably most in a position to take a position didn't take a position. He took no office for himself because he felt he could play a better role in the background helping mediate the various things we're hearing about. I also looked back at some of the writings that he made in the early days, wondering if there'd been an evolution. And it's astounding if you look at the text from the early 80s, for example, where he's saying precisely the same things he's saying now about the importance of democracy and the link between true Islam and true democracy. For example, in one of his books he wrote, I believe it was 1984, the flaws inherent in the liberal democratic system should never be used as a pretext for rejecting it. For there is no alternative out there to democracy except dictatorship. And incomplete freedom is always better than no freedom at all. And to be governed by a despotic order that is at the whim and desire of a tyrant. He champions democracy in a way that you don't hear from other thinkers of his genre, in a way that astounded the audience at Georgetown today, who started calling him secular. What was different about his movement if he was so democratic? It's been interesting to see people grapple with the depth of his philosophical thinking on these issues. The last thing I'd like to quote him on is something he said yesterday at USIP, as people began to talk about the accomplishments of the Tunisian transition, and as they started to congratulate him, his answer was, one flower does not make a spring. And I think that's a very profound observation that, yes, we are at the beginning of a road here, and we have only begun to accomplish everything that Tunisia can become. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill. Now I'd like to also ask an old and dear friend of me personally and also of Tunisia, Mr. Lord Craner, who was president of IRI and also was Assistant Secretary of State for Democracy, Human Rights and Labor during 2004 to 2006, something like that, and he dealt with Tunisia as one of the countries that he worked on. So perhaps he can tell us a little bit about his views back then and his opinions and his...
those days, and we talked not only about how they must coexist, but how they had to thrive together. And also that people had to see that democracy did not threaten Islam, but that it could actually improve their lives, so that the two had to work together. Today, with the uncertainty in Libya, a coup in Egypt, and strife in Syria, Tunisia stands as the Arab country, where Islam and democracy are being shown to be compatible, and where the people are beginning to see that democracy can improve their lives. Radwan referred to my time at the State Department. I took a very interesting trip to Tunisia in 2004. I openly criticized Ben Ali's rule as I was leaving in very, very strident terms. I was never invited back, including as a diplomat. And in fact, I was never able to get a visa until the revolution. But it was during that time in 2004 that I met liberals, people like Sihem Ben Sadri and Ahmed Chevy, who remained friends, who were working from the liberal end after the revolution to show that Islam and democracy can be compatible. But in trips to Tunisia after I could get a visa since the revolution, I've been able to meet many members of Ennahda who are taking it upon themselves to show that Islam and democracy are compatible and that they can deliver for the people. But Tunisia's remarkable achievements, as many have noted, would not have been possible without the leadership of our guest.
I think the fact that Sheikh Ghannouchi is really the voice and the leader of this process in Tunisia will enable this process to have an impact beyond the borders of Tunisia. And I can tell you, as somebody who was part of the effort to strengthen democracy in the world, this has not been a good time. There have been a lot of setbacks. But the fact that you have succeeded, Sheikh Ghannouchi, I think is an inspiration to us here, and I think it's an inspiration to people on the front lines of the struggle for democracy around the world, because you have shown that it can work and how you can make it work. Thank you.
had the great opportunity to talk to a lot of Tunisians. Tunisians were across the board, top to bottom, right to left, giddy with pride about what they'd accomplished. You can see it on the screen, you can feel it in the streets. They could tell I was a foreigner, a taxi cab driver would come up and say, a waiter in the restaurant would come up and say, do you know what we did? They were extremely proud. One of the people that I saw, I was very honored to be able to have an opportunity to speak with Sheikh Rached Ghannouchi, and had a lesson in how this all happened. We were also honored yesterday, as Bill mentioned, to host Sheikh Rached at the Institute of Peace, where he gave us the opportunity to have a conversation with him. And I quoted to him yesterday what he told me in his office a week and a half ago, which I will end on, and we can hear from the guest of honor. He said, we in Tunisia changed the course, the natural course of history, and that they did, and we will be benefiting from that for the rest of my life.
And finally, I would like to welcome and invite Sheikh Rached Ghannouchi, our guest of honor and keynote speaker, to tell us how this happened. And we'll give him more than 2 minutes, we'll give him 15 minutes.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for your coming in this evening to share with us this ceremony. I am happy to talk to you about the Tunisian experience and the Tunisian model, which has proven to the whole world that democracy is a dream that can be achieved in the Arab world and the Muslim world, despite the significant problems in the Arab Spring countries over the last few months. The Tunisian experience has proven to those fearful of the Arab Spring turning into a fundamentalist winter that encouraging military coups in not to solution, and that it only leads to chaos and disruption, in contrast to the freedom enjoyed by the Tunisian people, who have bravely and peacefully defended their revolution and their democratic transition, standing against terrorists and those who plotted to bring about political chaos in order to avoid the revolution. The Tunisian experience has proven that the cost of encouraging coup and giving up on the Arab Spring is much greater than showing patience and support while nations find their own solution for their internal problems. The Tunisian experience has proven to those doubting the intention of Islamists that Islam and democracy are compatible, and that victims of decades of repression, marginalization, and exclusion are not carrying hatred or the desire for revenge, but rather an enlightened modernist civil project as embodied in the new Tunisian constitution, which has been adopted with the widest possible consensus, as it has been adopted by 200 out of 70 members of National Constituent Assembly. The process of democratic that democracy can work, and democracy is possible if the elites can talk together and discuss and have enough patience to continue this national dialogue until they reach a consensus. The key word in this strategy is consensus, because in normal democracy it's enough to rule if you have 51%, but in similar case, in period of transition, it's not enough to rule if you have even 60%, but your system will represent only one trend. The other, they try hard to collapse the system. So in Tunisia, we discovered this art of coexistence, the art of consensus, of national dialogue, and we expect from all friends in the world to come to Tunisia to help this model, because it's in interest of all mankind in the East and the West that democracy will prevail all the world, because we are in a small village, so you cannot in the West enjoy the democracy and let other people in fire of dictatorship. So as mankind, we have to liberate our world from any dictator. Investing in democracy is more beneficial than investing in dictatorship. Tunisia usually is very nice, and with democracy is nicer, and without Ben Ali is more nicer. Thank you very much.
We may have maybe 10 minutes to answer some questions. If you have any questions, and if you have not had a chance